Hi stamping friends, this is Julie. Thanks for finding me at stampwithjuliebomb.com or here on my YouTube channel. Last week at Stamp Club, I gave away some cards to my Stamp Club members, and I had said at the time that I would do a quick card tutorial to teach you how to do this card. So let me show you a couple of these beauties. I've made several of them, and they're commonly called impossible cards because, as you can see, there's a piece of cardstock sitting straight up out of the middle of the card, and it looks really fantastic. So here is one of the impossible cards that I made. This was made with the Hey Birthday Chick set. Then I also have this one. This was made with the new Pansy Petals suite of products, the designer paper, the stamps, and again, you've got that cool part that sticks right up in the middle of the card. This is the impossible card. Here's another one made with Plentiful Plants. And so you can see the front there. It's got the cute designer paper and the back. I've got two more to show you. Here would be one that could be for Father's Day, of course. It says Happy Father's Day on it. This is made with the Whiskey Business stamp set. And you can see the front and the back and some really cool designer paper on that one. And the fifth one that I'm going to show you was made in these lovely colors. This is a set called, I think it's called Friendship and Flowers. I might have to double check that. Really pretty greenery designer paper. This was a retired designer paper. And you can see both the front and the back is stamped with that. This one has a little extra punched out. But the reason that we're here today is to learn how to make this impossible card. I'm not going to make a card start to finish with all of the stamping and the punching and so forth, but I'm going to teach you the mechanics of the card. All right, so let me set these out of the way and we'll get started. What you're going to need to make an impossible card is your base, and this is simply a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock. I have a piece of Misty Moonlight. So again, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. Then you're going to need some coordinating designer paper. You're going to need 2 pieces, and these are cut 2 1/2 by 4 inches. We're going to be cutting these down in a special way in just a moment, but you need 2 of those. You also need 2 pieces of your Whisper White, basic white, we call it basic white now, or your vanilla, and those 2 pieces are 1 5/8 by 3 inches. You'll need 2 of those, and then 2 pieces of coordinating cardstock. This could be the same color, or you could pull a secondary color from your designer paper. That's totally up to you, but these measure 1 7/8 by 3 1/4. So you need 2 of your neutral and 2 of the cardstock. And the last 2 pieces you're going to need are a piece of basic white that measures 5 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and a piece of cardstock that measures 1 inch by 5 1/2 inches. So the tricky part on the impossible card, which you're going to find out here in a minute, is not too impossible at all, are just some scoring and cutting techniques. So we're going to jump right into that, and then we'll cut our designer paper, and I'll show you how this gets put together. So you're going to take your scoring tool, your Simply Scored, or your trimmer with the scoring blade and the cutting blade in it, because what we're going to do is we're going to score lengthwise right down the center. So this is 4 1/4 inches across, so we're going to score at 2 1/8. So I'm going to put this into my trimmer and put it at 2 and slide it over to 1/8. Get my cutting blade out of the way, and I'm going to score this at that point. So I have my score down the center at 2 1/8. Then we're going to do some cutting. So this is 5 1/2 inches across, and we are going to make a cut at 2 3/4. So that's in the middle of it this way. So I'm going to line my cardstock up in the trimmer at 2 3/4, and I'm going to cut, but I'm going to stop when I get to my score line. So I'm going to cut down and I'm going to stop, and it's fairly easy to see. There's little indentations or grooves in your cutting blade that line up side to side. So I can see here is my score mark, and I've brought my blade right down to that point. All right, so now I have cut it here. Then on the other side of the cardstock, we are going to cut at the 1 inch mark. So I am going to stick this left side in at the 1 inch mark. And now you could do this either way. You could draw your scoring blade down to the your cutting blade down to the score line, or if you prefer, I know sometimes it feels safer to start the blade at the scoring line, so that's fine too. You can put it right there, and in that case cut up. So now I've got my 1 inch right there, and then I need it 1 inch from this side as well. So I can either use the other side measurements in my trimmer and put it at the 1 inch, or if you're more comfortable, you can slide your cardstock all the way left to the 4 1/2 inch mark, which means there's 1 inch left over here. So either way that you choose, you're cutting 1 inch from the edge on both sides. So I'm going to repeat that process. I'm just going to bring my cutting blade right down to the score line, and I'm going to cut going up. So in review, we have our 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock scored down the center long ways at 2 1/8, and then I have a cut at 2 3/4, stopping at the score mark, and a cut 1 inch in from each edge and stopping at the score mark. So as you can see, there are my cuts and my scores. Now, where you see the impossible card and it looks truly amazing, like how in the world do you get that piece to stick up right out of the cardstock? You're going to see right now that it is not that big of a deal, because all you have to do is 1 2 3, push this piece back, press your score line into place, and now it appears that the piece is sticking straight up out of the cardstock. So that if that ruined it for you, then ta-da. But it just shows you that even though we're calling this the impossible card, it's really not that impossible. So you just flip that back. Now what I need to teach you to do is how to cut your designer paper to fit on these little edges. So let's get our trimmer out again, and we're going to pick up our designer paper. These are the pieces that are 2 1/2 by 4 inches. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them at the same time. They're thin enough that my blade will be able to cut both of them. I'm going to line them up at the 7/8 inch mark, and I'm looking at the right side of where the blade is going to cut. So I've got my 1/2, my 3, there we go, 7/8 of an inch. And I'm going to cut up, and I'm going to stop at the 2 inch mark. So I'm cutting up, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to lift my paper trimmer so you can kind of see how on the edge of the trimmer you can see that groove, and I can see that it's stopping. It's lined up at the 2 inch. So I've got that cut. Now I'm going to rotate the paper. I'm putting the left edge of the paper at the 2 inch mark. It's 4 inches all the way across, so basically it's at the halfway point, so at 2 inches. I'm going to put my blade in right where I've already cut here up at the top, and I don't want to get my head in your shot, so I'm not going to lean in too much. It would be easier if I didn't worry about the camera, but I'm going to drop that in and cut down, because what we're doing is taking out that notch. Okay, so you can see what we've done there. All right, I'm just going to rewind and go through those steps one more time. You're going to put your designer paper in with the edge at 7/8, and you're going to cut up to the 2 inch mark. Then you're going to rotate your paper and now put the left side at the 2 inch mark, and then I set my blade down at the cut mark and cut down, removing this little notch. So these pieces are just scrap. You can save them for something else. These are the pieces we're going to use. So you're going to take your liquid glue or your favorite adhesive. And we're just going to attach these to the Impossible card base that we already prepared. And what you want to do when you attach your designer paper is this edge, which is going here at the center, you want to push that all the way up to the center, and then you can kind of eyeball your borders around these other edges. All right, so you're going to press that into place. Let's put this one on. All right. So we've got our designer paper in place. Ooh, see, the liquid glue actually helps you a little when you need it to slide. Right then I didn't need it to slide. There we go. All right. So the remaining pieces are just part of your decorating of the card. So you have your two neutrals, and that can be your stamping of a greeting, or some decorations stamped or punched and added onto there with embellishments. That gets mounted onto here. And I would, now that I'm looking at my card, I would do this in a contrasting cardstock because this is gonna go right here, all right? So I would have that be, sorry, I didn't grab a different color. I would have that be in a contrasting color. And then the white piece on top of it. So there is your front and also your back piece. And then this is what I call a stabilizer piece. So this is a little bit wonky. It kind of maybe doesn't want to sit exactly square the way that you would like it to appear. So what you're going to do is on this piece, if you'd like, you can stamp it and decorate it, attach it to your cardstock piece like so, and then carefully attach your stabilizer to the card. One word of caution at this point is you don't want to have any stickiness, any adhesive or tape or anything on this open part. See where it's going to be open on the card? So what I do when I attach this is I just flip it down like so. Use my adhesive, either my tear and tape or my liquid glue, and only put glue in the safe zones. That way, when you flip it over and you attach it on here, you know that you do not have any glue on this area. So it's not going to stick to something inadvertently. All right. So there you have the mechanics of the Impossible card. So now that you've seen one made, let me bring those finished ones back in so you can get another peek at Father's Day. There's a Father's Day theme. Hey Birthday Chick. This one on my little stabilizer strip, I also stamped and die cut an extra little chicken in the egg and added that with a dimensional. On my Hey Birthday Chick image here, there's quite a bit of wink of Stella, so her fur looks glistening, as well as the cupcake frosting. The balloons on the back glisten as well. I'm not sure if you can pick that up on camera. Here was the pansy one, also with an extra piece prepared and added with a dimensional. On the stabilizer, You Are Amazing. Little card, big thanks. I love that sentiment. I think that's great. And finally was the Plentiful Plants. Added some little gems. On this stabilizer, I did not add an extra piece. You certainly don't have to. Just do whatever you are in the mood to do. So thank you for dropping in and learning how to make an Impossible card. I would love it if you would make an Impossible card and send a picture. Comment to this video. Let me know how much you liked it and what you used to make an Impossible card. And I will see you next time.